America Resorts and Casinos. Nothing else comes close.
Well, big news out of Hamilton on this.
HD2 Rochester and everywhere you go at WGR Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. Welcome into the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, where the voice of the Rochester fan is heard. Pull up a stool and join us at 866-4326. This is WGR Rochester, and the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia is on now.
2 hours of sports talk excellence here in the Flower City. You found us. Thanks for making us a part of your day here. The sun is out here in downtown Rochester from the High Falls Studios. My name is Gene Battaglia. 95.7 FM, AM 950. Always streaming for free inside the Odyssey app. We're on YouTube and Twitch. You can hit us up certainly on X. Just send us a message at WGR Rochester. Or better yet, give us a call. It's a Friday. Let's have a good time here on the show today. 585-866-4326. That's the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. As we didn't do a show last Friday. I'm like, what were we doing this last? Oh, that's right. We kind of took a little extra day there for the weekend. And my gosh, boy, if we could have had Memorial Day weekend weather like we have for today, tomorrow, Sunday, that didn't happen. But looking forward to getting out, doing some yard work, Tim. See, that's the difference between me and you. Yard work, yeah. Like, I'm old man. Cut the grass, yard work. I already did my power washing. These are foreign concepts to you. Terrible take Tim Schneider, the pride of Fairport, donned in his Jays gear, which I will allow. I'm of the belief that if you have a favorite team, you're not really allowed to have a second favorite team. You can follow an athlete for sure, but this I'll allow. If you're a Guardian fan and you're wearing, it's a Toronto Blue Jays hat, but then you're wearing the Buffalo Blue Jays T-shirt, which I don't know if that's kind of actually put out there by the Blue Jays.
No, this was a 26 shirts, the COVID year thing when they were playing out in
right,
Salem
that's
Stadium.
what I was going to say. Like, they didn't really – I'm guessing this was kind of like a Major League Baseball thing because when the Blue Jays were playing in Buffalo – I thought for sure they would break out like change the font, which is, that's famous. Like Toronto owns that font. Change it into Buffalo. Do something that, and they didn't do that. It was Toronto's team, and they were kind of on loan, and that was a lot of fun. I don't think Buffalo embraced it as they should. Like you want to say Buffalo's a good sports town, sure, for certain things. Other things things don't register, and I think baseball's one of them. Like honestly, we are a better baseball town here in Rochester. If that upsets you, then I can point to some things like, hey, it's the 4th of July, and the Blue Jays are home and in Buffalo, and only 7,000 went. I was there that day. I'm like, that's not great. But, Tim, we're glad to have you aboard. And thank you for joining us. 585-866-4326. That's the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester, goodsmokebbq.com. So we will have a Game 7 in the NBA's Western Conference Finals. San Antonio. You watch that. I'm like, okay, 10 minutes in, I'm like, this you know the direction this is going to go, right? So I'm not complaining, but it would be nice to get a Game 7 that's going to kind of sort of hold your attention. I think that's all we want, right? We really don't have a horse in this race, so to speak, right? I don't think anybody here is a Spurs fan or an OKC fan, or maybe you're such a diehard Knick fan. I'd really rather face San Antonio or Oklahoma City. To me, it doesn't matter. I think from a TV standpoint, I think the country would be more interested in seeing the kid, Wembanyama, the alien who lives amongst us. I think that would draw a better TV number than Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City, again, like the Rochester Metro, a little over 1 million people. Oklahoma City at 1.4. Look, that was somebody who did that for their hometown, stole the team from Seattle. So I can't get behind that team. I'd rather see San Antonio win this, but I do think it's going to be Oklahoma City. I said Oklahoma City at the beginning, Tim. I didn't say the Knicks, so if that makes me a bad Knicks fan, so be it. But just kind of enjoy this. The one Knick note we do have is that, oh my gosh, and I you want to talk about stories that are overblown, I think we would put this in the category. Oh my gosh, worry and concern about a key member of the New York Knicks having surgery to repair a broken pinky, Mitchell Robinson. Okay. if you've watched 2 seconds of Knicks basketball. You don't even need to. I'll just kind of tell you. He's notorious on one side of the floor. He cannot shoot a free throw. This year, 40.8% from the line this season. Mitchell Robinson was 2 of 14 against the Cavs in that series. So, yeah, it's awful. You remember Shaquille O'Neal? Well, this is worse. You don't need him for offense. You just grab a rebound, get in the way, make somebody alter their shot to miss. That's Mitchell Robinson. He's in there for defense as a center. So I'm not that concerned. But we can talk NBA if you like at 585-866-4326. We can talk hockey. We do have a game tonight. Montreal and Carolina. I would say, hey, if Carolina doesn't take care of this tonight, beware, because then it goes up to Montreal for 6, and Game 7, anything can happen. I'm telling you, this seems like a stretch here to think that Montreal is going to come back in this series for a few reasons. One, look, this would be the 3rd straight series they'd have to take in 7. What would be the odds against that? So getting to a 7th game would be a chore here for Montreal. They didn't have to come back from 3-1 deficits against Tampa and Buffalo. In fact, they were up against Buffalo 3-2, if you recall. That's one. 2, it just seems like this style that Carolina is playing is just snuffing out Montreal. Like what Tampa did, like Carolina's doing much better. And that's why Carolina's 1 win away from moving. Now, Tampa was 1 win away from moving on. I get that. And then, I don't know, if to have the person that brought out the flame on Monday, and we were on the air yesterday, and, oh, my gosh, Claude Lemieux passed. Which, if you go back to the Sabres run, like, I invoked Claude Lemieux, others did. Like, when you're seeing Zach Benson, like, wow, we have one of those guys on our team now. He's 21. He can score. He elevates his game in the postseason. He gets under the opponent's skin. To the point where, hey, McAvoy, yeah, you didn't like that check? I'm going to laugh at you. Ha, 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 enjoy your suspension, or whatever he said. Like, yeah, that's our guy. And watching Claude Lemieux over the years, and I remember him as a Devil, and then Tim correctly pointed out, oh, yeah, it was with Colorado, too. I'm like, oh, yeah. And then you look up the Draper hit. I'm like, wow, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, there were some moments in Claude Lemieux's on ice that are like, whoa, okay, that's dirty. But Claude Lemieux, as a player, as an opponent, he was that guy like, oh, I hate that guy, but I love him on my team. And for that, I think, deep down, I think we all kind of respected Claude Lemieux, even though some of the stuff he did on the ice was cheap over the years. He took his own life. That, it doesn't make any sense, but then again, it never does. So just talk to people. That's all I'm going to say on this. Just check in on people. That to me, if you're in Montreal, and we could have the debate, who do you remember Claude Lemieux as? Do you remember him as a Devil? Do you remember him as a member of the Colorado Avalanche? Do you remember him as Montreal? Dude won cups in all those places. That's how good he was. Yes, he was on that Montreal team that defeated the Kings last time they won. So it's wrong, and I can't explain it. So that is not adding to a comeback story here for Montreal. Just like on the ice, I can't say if that's going to have any effect, but man, for their fan base, it's not the way you want this to go. And you try to put the two pictures in your head, like here he is being cheered on Monday night, being celebrated. Being like, yeah, let's go. Again, these things never make sense. Talk to your loved ones. 585-866-4326 is our phone number. One guest on the show today, his name, Jim Riley, Ball Cap Sports. Yes, we do talk baseball here on the show, as this is the final weekend in the month of June. Braves rolling into Cincinnati. We've got the Mets this weekend hosting the Marlins. Really don't care. And if you're a Yankee fan, congrats. This is the weekend they go to Sacramento. So you're going to have to deal with that. It's a later start tonight. And I haven't – have you given the Sunday Night Baseball on NBC a chance yet? I haven't tuned in, but I think maybe this is the week. If I were running the NBA and NBC, I'm really surprised they're putting Game 7 on Saturday night. It must be something that NBC has to deal with baseball in place. I'm actually surprised. I thought, okay, that feels like Sunday, sitting down, let's watch the Western Conference Final. Hey, a lot of us are busy on Saturday nights. No, we're going to get baseball on Sunday night, but it's going to be Cubs and Cardinals. And look, you don't have to follow baseball that close. I'll just give you the thumbnail thing. Cubs were a playoff team last year. They're, again, kind of frisky in a division that it's up for grabs. And the Cardinals, everybody was kind of writing off. And, okay, they've got some kids there. And, again, they're above 500 too. And it's a rivalry game. I haven't given a second to the NBC production. So I'm planning on doing that this coming Sunday night just to see how baseball looks on that network. I'm sure some of, you might be listening right now and you have an opinion on it at 866-4326.
Yeah, I watched it. Cleveland played Seattle early on in the season. It was a Peacock exclusive, though, because the NBA regular season was still on regular NBC, but I'm sure it's the same output, just it was on the streaming service rather than the standalone NBC. But, yeah, it was fine. It was different, not your typical ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, but it gets the job done.
Yeah, look, I could have done it last week, and I would say, like, we want to say, show us different teams, and then they serve up Texas Rangers and LA Angels. I'm like, oh, okay, no. Like, I don't need to watch that. I don't think that game's going to come up for topic on the show tomorrow. So, but Cubs and Cardinals, that's going to be your Sunday night game. Yeah, we're inviting on Jim Riley because there's a story I didn't have my bingo card yesterday. Hey, here are the opening volleys in the upcoming baseball labor negotiations. And I say CBA talk, I say labor, and you might glaze over. I don't care. I get all that. When we get around to this for every league, you have billionaires arguing against a group of millionaires. It doesn't register for me. Tell me how this affects me as a fan. Well, that's where I do think this is interesting, because are the owners actually going to dig in and get the salary cap they've been asking for, oh my gosh, forever? They haven't gotten it done. But I think the root of that is this, that you've never had a united front in Major League Baseball in terms of the owners. Like, eventually they'll cave. And the reason for that is the local TV revenue in baseball has such a disparity. Like what the Yes Network, what NESN, what SNY, and what the Dodgers are doing, what Marquee and the Cubs, like that, you're printing money, and it's weird to think the Yankees were the first ones to figure this out. The Yankees in the early '90s, before they went on their run of championships, they were on the MSG network, and they had a negotiation that went sideways. And George Steinbrenner said, "Screw you! I'm going to start my own network." And then he provided this blueprint that, oh, yeah, if I hire good people and I keep all the profit, wow, that's okay. Sure, it comes with more of an expense. Well, that's the issue. Like, the expense is something that's just too much. Like, why doesn't every team kind of do this? Well, not every team can, but a team that just has a television market like New York City, yes, you can do that. And I've always thought that because of that, and because those revenues are not shared, what Pete Rozelle did for the NFL way back when, we wouldn't have the Buffalo Bills today, folks. I truly believe that, had there not been revenue sharing across the board when it comes to all television. So the way I understand it now moving forward is this, is that to kind of appease, like, how do you balance this out between your Dodgers, your Yankees, and your small market teams? And who might be a small market team? For this example, I'm going to say Milwaukee, okay? Well, they'll be able to keep those revenues, and it won't cost them, but then they will have, like every other sport in the major leagues, a salary cap. And with that salary cap, will come a salary floor. And we've never had anything like that in baseball, too. So baseball's opening volley is this. The cap at $245 million and a hard floor at $171. And again, this is where you're glazing over because all that is just gobbledygook. I've done sales and you spit out numbers, and what does this mean? What it means is that $245 might be a little low, but we've never had a salary cap floor of $171. Can you imagine going to the Miami Marlins and saying, hi, you've got to go spend $100 million on your payroll next year. Ah! This is how they're trying. The owner's trying to win over the national narrative, because if you're doing it from that standpoint with this, okay, teams that need to shed payroll to get under the cap. Dodgers, Yankees, Mets, Blue Jays, Phillies, Red Sox, Braves, Padres. That's 8 teams, which I'm surprised the Braves are on that list. I'm not surprised the Red Sox are on the list. Certainly not surprised the Dodgers are on that list. And the Mets, boo. Yeah, so, yeah, kind of what you expect. The Padres being kind of the, hey, you're a small market, but we're investing. The Padres are not a big market. So 8 teams would have to get lower. And then these are the teams that would have to raise the number, anywhere from a few million to, oh, yeah, we got to pump in $100 million into our payroll next year. You've got the A's, Rockies. Wait, the Cardinals? The Guardians? Wait, the White Sox? I understand they're like second fiddle in Chicago, but you're in market number 3? The Pirates, the Twins, the Brewers, the Rays, the Marlins, the Nationals, the Reds. That's 12 teams that would have to raise their payroll and 8 teams that would have to cut it. And if you're a small market team, Tim, you're a fan of the Guardians. I get it. How many Pirate fans are in their area? More than one, I'll put it that way. I know Reds fans. This would all be welcome news, right? Like, oh my gosh, we have a level playing field to play on. But then I point out the Brewers, and that's in for a reason, right? And that's maybe everything isn't equal here because the Rays, it's hard to compete against, the Yankees and Red Sox and Blue Jays, right? 3 teams and they're spending above, and you're in the same division. But if you're the Brewers and you're in that NL Central with the Reds and the Pirates and everybody else, hey, you're competing right now. And by not having a salary floor, we're just going to kind of middle around. And I would think that maybe if the owners don't get their way for the salary cap, the appeasement would be this. Just a prediction, roll the tape, expanded playoffs. Because then you could serve to any fan base, hey, we made the postseason. And once you made the postseason, anything can happen. I'm talking like doing this almost like NBA or NHL style. 8 teams from every league. And you'll have 1 versus 8, best of 5, and you work your way back there. And you could say, this is great. It's more meaningful baseball. I would say, no, it's not. Like, meaningful baseball should be August, September, and let's make every game count in that direction. If you have more playoff teams, then teams don't really need to spend where they need to spend. So I don't know how this negotiation is going to go. All I know is that they're not close. The players are saying, no, the baseball right now, there is no problem with baseball. Look at the numbers in baseball. And when it comes to profitability, baseball's number 2 behind the NFL. Again, I could spit a lot of numbers out at you, but that is not a surprise. And a lot of it has to do with you're counting the local revenue and you have more gate. Like, people would think, oh, it's the NBA. No, it's baseball right now. So baseball will never have number 1 in this country. Nobody will. It's the NFL. They've lapped the field. I'm curious to get Jim Riley's thoughts. We'll talk some baseball with Jim Riley, certainly, as, we brought up that idea that the Rays might have cracked the code yesterday in terms of in an era where we're concerned about launch angles and who cares about strikeouts. The strikeouts be damned. The Rays went out and they spent money on just a bunch of guys who could make contact. and that's who they drafted, and they're not paying them all that much, and they're winning ball games with small ball by running the bases and making contact and doing those things that we've been asking for. But because of the Rays, we're not really paying attention. We're not getting behind this team. Nobody has a Rays fan. Nobody's grandfather cheered for the Rays. It's a team that is persona non grata. I don't really care one way or another about the Rays. Lot to get to, too. There's a Bills scheduling note for next year, which we will get to, which I'm like, okay. I know how much you love that stuff, Tim.
Love it. Can't wait for it.
Can't wait. Dripping with sarcasm. Terrible take Timmy's.
A
terrible
year
take.
out.
Setting a new record here in the sports bar. And by the way, okay, wow, 79 degrees here in our studios.
Nice and toasty, just the way we like it.
Just like the way we like it. Like, people were like, hey, can I come into the studio? I'm like,
Shirtless Schneider coming soon.
No. Dude, my first year in radio, there's a guy, the voice of the Red Wings used to be Josh Lewin, and it wasn't Josh Lewin that was shirtless. But can you imagine going in and somebody's working shirtless because the AC wasn't working in the studio? And this dude, like, put on a shirt. Like you go to the beach, like, I don't want to see that. No. So my way of saying, Tim, shirt stays on.
Fine.
I don't care. If it gets the triple digits, maybe. If it gets the triple digits,
I'm leaving.
You're leaving. Yeah, we'll have a problem here. Jim Riley, Ballcap Sports coming up. My name is Gene Battaglia, Tim Schneider, and Dan DeLorean here on WGR Rochester.
today.
Brought to you by USPS Ground Advantage.
Pump up the volume.
Business moves fast.
Pump up the volume.
When you ship with USPS Ground Advantage, you can keep up with confidence. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to learn more.
WGR Rochester Sports Update.
What could have the NHL final set tonight. Carolina is at home. They're up 3-1 on the Montreal Canadiens. Montreal head coach Martin St. Louis says it's one step at a time.
You can't look at, you got to win 3 and it's a big mountain to climb. Just got to win 1, you know. I don't think we've stopped and worried about everything that was talked about us, even today. And that, to me, that's just the noise. We don't worry about the noise. We just, we wake up every day trying to win the day.
Game 7 of the NBA's Western Conference Finals tomorrow night, San Antonio at Oklahoma City. Baseball, the Rochester Red Wings had their winning streak snap. Wings hosting Syracuse once again tonight. All the action in the majors under the lights. The Yankees playing in Sacramento against the A's. The Mets home against the Marlins. Jim Riley joining us next. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. WGR Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.
Now that, hockey's winding down. Yes, we'll have the NBA Finals. A lot of people are really going to be into that, but that'll be over soon enough. And sure, we have a World Cup that happens once every 4 years and even longer than that since here in the stateside. You got baseball. We talk baseball here in the Flower City. We want to talk baseball. We talked to our buddy with some Rochester roots. He's Jim Riley, Ballcap Sports. Check out the show on YouTube. Jim breaking it down quite often. And Jim, when I saw this yesterday, I'm like, oh, we got to talk to you about this. What did you think of the opening volley here? I take it from this standpoint. At least it's good. We're not waiting until November, at least, to discuss what's going on here in baseball's labor negotiations. Do you take yesterday as a good sign or, oh, my gosh, this is really far apart. We're never going to get anything done. Jim, how are you today?
Good. Thank you for having me on. I too share the optimism of sort of a sense of relief that we've started this early. It's May, and they're talking about this. It's not, it's December that this actually would go into the lockout would take place if they don't come to agreement. It's not November, so we're early. The initial responses and what we saw kind of go back and forth with the players' union, essentially, to sum it up, looking for an increase, looking for raises, rightfully so, and then the owner side, the league side, coming through with their cap requests and the floor as well. That can't be overlooked. It was to be expected on both sides. There's nothing new, nothing really surprised us. The one thing that was kind of interesting was the league opening up the idea of sharing the TV money, which I'm not sure how teams like the Dodgers feel about that. But hey, if it's to get a cap done, I guess they'll look at it because in the end they'll win out. But there really weren't too many surprises, and even in the responses were not surprising. Both sides saying that the offers that they received from the other side were unacceptable, and they wouldn't be able to work off of these elements of what was proposed, which is to be expected. That's negotiating 101, right? They're negotiating in the public eye, trying to gain the favor of the public. So nothing really surprised me, but again, positive that we are heading in a direction where we're already talking, and they need to keep talking throughout this process. I just don't want any dark periods.
Yeah, here's another thing that surprised me. Yes, they're proposing. We knew a cap and floor. I didn't think the floor would be that high. And when they present this to you, saying, "Hey, yeah, there's going to be 8 teams that under right now the numbers would have to cut, but then there will be 12 teams that would have to come to the floor here." To me, this seems like a PR move in a way, because if you're talking to any fan in Pittsburgh or Tampa or Cincinnati, these teams that don't feel like they have a real chance. And you're a player in one of those towns. If you're a player in one of those, you can't say anything because you can't win in this situation because your union, you don't want a cap. But yet, if you do get a cap, maybe the Reds have a chance to compete on a level here with other teams.
Yeah, the Rays would have to up their payroll by $60 million. The Guardians would have to up their payroll by nearly $80 million. I think it's actually 73. The Marlins would have to upgrade by $80 million. Imagine the whole new outlook if the Marlins went from $81 million to $171 million. If the Guardians went up from $98 to $171. I mean, and that's just those are the three most egregious examples of low spenders. You mentioned the Reds, you mentioned the Pirates. The Pirates would have to come up $30 million. Well, hey, that's how much you need to pay Paul Skeens.
Yeah,
so hey, let's get that Paul Skeens extension done, and you're at your threshold floor. So it does add a lot of. I would hope it adds a lot of interest and hope for those teams, for those fans of those teams, because hey, we can compete now. If we got to be at 171, and oh by the way, the Dodgers can't go to 418. The Mets can't go to 383. They can only go to 245. Well, now we got a ball game. So from a fan perspective, it kind of does feel like you should be rooting for this if you're a fan, because it levels the playing field far more than it is right now. It's very slanted right now. This would level it, but the ultimate issue is that the players are never – I don't see a world where the players accept a cap. They may push for that floor, but they're the only league in pro sports that operates without a cap. I think they take great pride in that. It's always been that way, and I think it will be a complete shock if we end up agreeing to a cap system.
Well, then how much do both sides want to dig in? I guess that's kind of the question. If we're talking about the positives, okay, how do in any negotiation, what do both sides have to give? What if this ends up being like an Armageddon? And in 1994, you lost the World Series. The NHL once upon a time lost the whole season. So what's the worst case scenario for next season? And I would imagine the owners would dig in, but could the players dig in just as much? What would you describe as the worst case scenario here, Jim?
The interesting thing, and I think what helps us, is that it's terrible timing for either side to just turn their back, walk away, and say, "We're not doing that. Call us in 6 months." Like they can't, the popularity, the growth, the excitement around the game, I think both sides feel it, which may ultimately lead to even more public negotiating and public posturing than last time we did this 4 years ago, because both sides are going to try to win over the court of public opinion and be viewed as the victim in this situation, or be viewed as the hero or the star. Either way, the fans are going to blame both sides if they're not playing baseball in the spring and they're not playing baseball next year. So the timing is really terrible. If baseball was kind of on this like just flat line where it was a few years ago, if it was just on this flat line, like okay, whatever. But you have new fans coming in. You have so much popularity and excitement around your game to kill it. Both sides have to see the detriment to that. Now, remember, this is not the end-all, be-all. They will do this again in 4 or 5 years.
Oh.
I think it's all negotiating 101, right? I'm going to start way up here with a crazy number or a crazy request, but in the back of my mind, I've got room to move. And like that, the cap and the floor numbers that you saw, like those will move. I have a feeling we will see a lot of negotiation where those numbers fluctuate. But I think in the end, as part of negotiating, if I'm smart, if I'm the owners, if I'm the league, I'm setting the stage for the cap not to get accepted this year, but to see how much favor I can garner for it so that in 4 or 5 years when we do this again, that's where I strike. That's where the game has gone through that, that ramp up, that excitement level, and now I feel like I can pull that lever and say, hey, we're not playing baseball this year. We didn't do the whole cap thing 4 years ago. It's happening now. I feel like there's going to be that push where one side will be willing to say, fine, we're not playing baseball. I don't think it's this time. I think it could be in 4 or 5 years.
I'm fine
because that's, you know what I mean? Like it seems like this is how you set the stage. They're going to be very aggressive for it. You set the stage for it now, but you can't be heavy-handed on it right now. I just don't think you can. I mean, they may be, and it would be foolish, and it would be a huge mistake. But I think in 4 or 5 years, I think they go heavy-handed. And again, take right now to try to figure out, garner, what pieces of this do they like? Where do we then expand upon next time?
We're ready for expansion, but is this going to be a chip the owners will use? In other words, hey, you may not like the cap, but you know what? Here's something we're going to do. If every roster is 26, we're going to give you 52 more jobs, 50 more. That's how we're going to increase. Is Major League expansion tied here to the owners getting their way?
I think it comes into play to some degree. You look at the players and how much money they are asking for on top of all of the increase with the arbitration numbers and the league minimums and the increase in the competitive balance tax. I want to believe that the CBT jump was up to $300 million, which is 56 more than it is now. Like, they asked for a lot of that. I haven't read anything, but I don't know if the players would sacrifice that for 1 or 2 new teams. So it may be a bargaining chip that they use, but I don't know if they would sacrifice everybody getting a pay raise for 2 new teams. When, as it is, I think there's a little worry about adding teams, because think about all of the injuries we're going through, all the pitching injuries we're going through. Half of these teams are desperately searching for pitching, grabbing guys, pulling them up when they're not yet ready because they're getting crushed with injuries. Add 2 more teams into the mix, and I mean that's what happened when we last had expansion. We saw the talent kind of got thin. There were teams that were really obscenely bad because there just wasn't enough talent, and they would be running that back again. So, I mean, owners all for it because it's an opportunity for them to make more money, especially if we're centralizing all this TV money. It's more money to go into that. But the players, I may be wrong on this. I don't know how much value the players will see in that as a bargaining chip from the owners, from the league.
Talking to Jim Riley, Ball Cap Source. Let's talk some stuff on the field. And one team you mentioned, I'm curious to get your thoughts, because none of us, I'm confident in saying that, thought that here as we're entering June next week, that in first place in the AL East would be the Tampa Bay Rays. And it's not like the Yankees are bad. The Yankees are doing just fine, kind of what we expected. The Red Sox have bottomed out. The Jays have yet to get going, and the Orioles are the Orioles. But the question is about the Rays. Did they crack the code on another market deficiency? Because my opinion on this, Jim, is they may have, but I'm not a believer in just picking up guys off the scrap heap, trotting them out there on the mound, and voila, we've got a great pitching staff. How are the Rays doing what they're doing right now?
I mean, they're getting some really phenomenal effort on the bump. Drew Rasmussen, Shane McClanahan, Nick Martinez have been 3 of the best pitchers in the American League this year, and they've just converted Griffin Jacks, one of the lights out relievers in the league, and they have him starting games now. So they go 3 to 4 deep in that rotation, and they're really good. And then in that bullpen, they're getting some really good stuff from the back of the bullpen. The bats, they're good, but we know they're led well. The coaching, the manager there, they've always been well regarded in that front, and they develop well. I mean, we're getting some great baseball from guys like Jonathan Aranda, Junior Caminero, Chandler Simpson. Chandler Simpson looked like he was just going to, he would have the speed but never be able to get on base. But he's been a fine hitter this year. So there's some holes in that lineup, but they're able to get it through by playing good fundamental baseball. The pitching is great, and the schedule that they have played too. I'm not going to say they played the easiest schedule, but they also haven't played the hardest schedule. That stuff has a tendency to work itself out. They've played the Red Sox, they've played the Orioles, they've played the Blue Jays, they've gone up against these teams in the division that have gotten off to a poor start. Now they've also played the Yankees, and they're 4-1 against the Yankees, I do believe. So this will play out over the course of a season. We'll see if these Rays are legit or not. I think what will ultimately come down to is that pitching. If that pitching can hold, then I think they can be right around that postseason picture come October.
We're talking to Jim Riley, Ballcap Sports. You can watch his show on YouTube. Plenty of followers. Like and subscribe it. I'm trying to find new things we can say about Shohei Ohtani, and it's this. In addition to an MVP, could he actually also win the Cy Young this year? For him to dominate the Rockies and then afterward be like, nah, we didn't have it tonight. We're not happy with my control. Like, dude's ERA is below 1. I mean,
yeah.
Like what we're seeing right now, how do you even put it into words and context, what we're seeing out of one of the all-time greats here, Jim?
I mean, it is something you will tell your kids and grandkids about. That you saw Shohei Ohtani play baseball, that your kids and your grandkids and their kids will talk about Shohei Ohtani like we talked about Babe Ruth forever. Babe Ruth is being dethroned as we watch these baseball games. There is a new mythical figure. We are watching it happen in front of our eyes. He's going to have all the MVPs. This probably won't be his first Cy Young. We forgot how good he was because he had such a lengthy time off, but he was a phenomenal pitcher before. So it's just, it's historic is the word. I will say this, he's going to have some stiff competition for the National League Cy Young because what Christopher Sanchez is doing in Philly, what Jacob Mizorowski is doing in Milwaukee is outstanding in their own right. So he's going to have some stiff competition. It's really going to come down to what do the voters value, because the strikeouts are going to be there from Mizorowski and Sanchez. I don't think Ohtani's going to be at the same level, but the ERA is looking like it could be in Ohtani's favor, even though the Miz and Sanchez, Mizorowski's ERA is below 2, Sanchez is below 1.5. The voters are we're going to see what matters more: ERA, strikeouts, wins. I expect Ohtani and Sanchez to probably and even Mizorowski. I shouldn't short the Brewers. They could all stack up the wins. This will be an interesting NL race, and we haven't even talked about Chris Sale, who could put himself in the mix. He's been great. Skeens could put himself in the mix. He's been great. The NL Cy Young is going to be a really fun one to track this year.
Yeah, you brought up Sanchez, and credit the Phillies because they get off to the slow start, right? Like, this isn't working, and let's put in Mattingly, and it's not been the magic. Atlanta's running away, but the Phillies are setting themselves up for a wild card run. Now put that picture next to the Mets, because at the time the Phillies and the Mets were tied at the bottom and no changes from the Mets, and things are kind of going along. And what? Is anything going to happen with this team? This team is dead. Well, there's nothing going on. Like, your thoughts on what has been a disastrous season so far at Citi Field?
It's embarrassing. I think it's going to cost David Stearns his job. It's going to cost Carlos Mendoza his job by the end of the year. They should have already fired Carlos Mendoza, in my opinion. I don't know if that Yankees series win saved him, but that series win could also be viewed as a series that the Yankees lost in their own right with some of their own mistakes that they made. They let the Mets get both of those games. That could have been a Yankee sweep, and if that had happened, maybe they would have fired Mendoza. It's really surprising that Mendoza's still there, I think this is the death knell for David Stearns. So I don't think this team gets back into it. They don't play good fundamental baseball. They can't hit. They can't score runs. David Stearns forgot that not everybody can step into the bright lights of New York City and play baseball. Some of them go through some struggles and go through their own issues between the ears playing in that kind of environment. And he thought that he could just completely turn it over and bring in a bunch of guys. And then on top of it, a couple of the guys he brought in had injury histories. And he thought, oh, no, they'll be fine. Polanco, he'll be fine. Robert, he'll be fine. Not. They're both on the IL, and who knows when they'll be back. And who knows when they'll be productive. So major miscalculation by David Stearns to the point where I don't know how it's forgivable. Sure, Alonso's not killing it in Baltimore. Nimmo had a great start with the Rangers. He's cooled off a little bit. McNeil started out good with the A's. He's cooled off a little bit, but they're all doing better than what they brought in. It's a huge miscalculation, a huge mistake, and I think not firing Carlos Mendoza was a mistake. It's a rallying point. This is not acceptable to the degree where we have to make the toughest decision we have to make, because you guys as players can't go anywhere, but the guy who's leading you can, and we're gonna overhaul changes. I'm surprised. I mean, it's just David Stearns must not be in his personality to do that. I don't know, but it seemed like the move that needed to be made, and it wasn't. And they're 10, 11, something like that games below 500 right now, and I don't see them turning around. I read that June 1st was the date on the calendar that they were going to target to either get back into it or start taking calls. And we're just a couple of days away.
Yeah.
And it's going to be call-taking time. It's not going to be get back into it.
Yeah, don't wait till Monday. Make the call now, please.
No,
yeah, let's
exactly. Before somebody gets hurt. Get them out of town.
Yeah, well, speaking of somebody gets hurt, and this will be the last one for you, Jim. Where do we go with Tarek Skubal? Now, if you look at the standings right now, Detroit, bottom of the AL Central, that would say sell, sell, but it's a division we've seen teams kind of bounce back from. Do the Tigers flip Skubal? And part of it, he has to get healthy. He's not available right now.
Yeah.
Where does this storyline go here?
I think they have to trade him. I think they absolutely have to. The Cleveland Guardians are playing good ball. I mean, the Guardians, I'm looking at the standings now, are 33-25. So it's not like a situation in the AL West where there's a team in first place that's one game below 500. The Cleveland Guardians are pitching really well, and they have promoted a couple of guys, recently Travis Bazzana, that have just been spark plugs to that lineup. So I'm a believer in the Guardians, and I think they will take that division easily now. With the internal moves that they made, internal promotions, they've legitimized themselves. The Detroit Tigers, the lineup, they just can't score. Last year they were a borderline top 10 lineup in terms of run production, and I was a believer heading into this year because I look at the talent, I figure, hey, they're getting better, so they should all take a little bit of a step. That hasn't happened. They have been a bad offense with the injuries they have dealt with. Casey Mize is hurt again. It's one step forward, two steps back. That's the best mode that they could be in at this point, and that leads them to a trade deadline where they have to trade Skubal. He'll be back in time to show that his elbow is healthy. That's maybe the best news out of this, because that will lead to the best trade return that they could get for him. He's going to be traded now. This Tigers team, I don't believe they have it in them to go out and win 15 out of their next 18 games and put themselves back into the picture. This Tigers team, I think, is pretty much washed at this point. 13 games below 500 at this point in the season is abysmal. And the return they would get for Tarek Skubal, if they want to continue winning, they don't want this window to close up on them with the departure of Skubal, because they still have some other pieces here. They just signed Framber Valdez in the offseason. They need to trade him because they could get some right now pieces that could help them next year, and they could get prospects to help them a couple years down the road. It would be malpractice by the general manager if he doesn't trade Tarek Skubal.
Jim Riley, Ball Cap Sports, and when you go to YouTube and you find the guy that has the ball cap turned around, you know you found the right spot. Jim, tell everybody how often you drop episodes there on your YouTube page.
Yeah, every week it's at least 2 to 3, either live shows or uploaded shows that go up on the channel live every Sunday night after the baseball week kind of winds down, recapping the week and doing my power rankings. But now I was actually working on, before you called me, the trade deadline preview. June 1st, calendar flips. It is trade deadline season, and we're working on a preview for that. Going to work on some more content all around the trade deadline, because once we get into June, it's on. The rumors are going to start to fly. The talk is going to be out there, and we're going to be in it.
Jim, appreciate the time. Enjoy your baseball weekend. Let's do this again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Gene.
Thanks, Jim Riley, Ball Cap Sports. Some interesting stuff there. And kind of how this ties in. Now, I haven't seen any report that Skubal is going on rehab.
I've got one rumor for you. Nothing official.
Rumor.
Came out about an hour ago, actually. June 12th is a targeted rehab assignment, so he'd rejoin the Tigers on the 17th. But this is speculation, not a report. So
okay, so
if they push it back a week, we got a shot.
Yeah, the Toledo Mud Hens would be in that week that begins June 15th. So would they give him one? Like, he is ahead of schedule, and loose bodies in an elbow, kind of vague, right? Like, you're not really sure. Also, a part of this, too, is it's kind of like it comes full circle, right? If you're not sure about the labor situation, that you would even have like a season, and if you did, it's not going to be all that much, then why would you give somebody a bunch of dollars now? Like, it would make sense, actually, for Detroit. As good as Skubal is, who wants him? Who wants to make a run right now? Well, she's going to end up with the Dodgers. Dodgers have outfielders. They have all. That's why, like, oh my gosh, Teoscar Hernandez went down. Who cares? Like, you have so much talent waiting in the wings there with the Dodgers. Yeah, Skubal to the Dodgers, that just would not be fair. I saw some report like, oh, Milwaukee, like, okay, sure, for like a 1-year rental. Maybe it's one of those weird things where he ends up in a place like Sacramento. Like, okay, we're going to trade prospects and we're going to make a run. I don't think Sacramento will be the team, but Milwaukee did this way back when with CeCe Sabathia. And that was basically the same thing here. We'll have you for a half year, and we'll enjoy it, and it didn't work.
He almost won the Cy Young in that half year.
Yeah, he was that good. Now, Skubal, it's like, when are you going to be back? I'll look in there and watch. We've got our new number 2 coming up. Time for your calls on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line at 866-4326. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester, goodsmokebbq.com. We got Timmy's Terrible Take of the Day, and we also will have time for your calls as well. Gene Battaglia with you here on WGR Rochester.
Odyssey is an equal opportunity employer.
WROCAM, WBEE HD2, and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. WGR Rochester. Sports update.
Montreal went to 7 games in round 1. They went to 7 games in round 2, and they're going to have to do this again. Tonight being game 5. Carolina is actually up 3-1. Here's the head coach, Rob Brindamore.
The guys are focused. There's one goal here. Like I said, there's so much still work ahead of us. And I think you can't look at the big picture. But I think we've done a real nice job of focusing in on what's important, which is going about figuring out how to win that day.
Meanwhile, goes to a Game 7 in the Western Conference Finals. San Antonio and Oklahoma City taking place tomorrow night. Rochester Red Wings, their long winning streak, snapped last night. Same 2 teams tonight, Wings and Syracuse at the ballpark. All the action in the majors on the lights tonight. The Yankees play in Sacramento against the A's. The Mets taking on the Marlins. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, WGR Rochester.
Pull up a chair, stay for a while. You're in the sports bar on WGR. Grab a drink, hang your coat, get sports talk. Live from Western New York. It's a master show. 9 times better than your typical host. 9 times. Gene and Tim have things much hotter than most. No one cares when you're out. Sabres, Bills, Americans, Red Wings, and Nighthawks. Sports bar for Rochester Sports Talk.
Hour number 2 as we roll into a beautiful weekend from the High Fall Studios here in downtown Rochester. Once again, Gene Battaglia with you. I don't know what you got planned this weekend, Tim. I am calling not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 championship games tomorrow. It's at Fisher for the boys lacrosse championship. So I don't know if it's ever happened. All 4 brackets went chalk, 1 versus 2. So your Fairport Raiders not in. Penfield knocked them out, so that'll be
maybe
Penfield,
next year.
Yeah, Penfield against McQuaid. We've got Victor Pittsford. So if you're heading out for any of the action, don't be afraid to say hi up in the press box. I mean, if the game's going on, I can't talk, but that's where I'll be tomorrow. Well, that's I nearly died, walking down the hallway.
That was wild.
Well, that was
Almost had to
embarrassing.
come and check up on you.
It was embarrassing. So if you watch the show here, you might ask me, like, what are you doing? Like I get parched. Like, I just have a simple water bottle that I fill up, and every once in a while I'll take a sip or whatever. So I'm not slowing down, and I don't know. Maybe it's a tick, maybe it's a habit. I don't know what it is, but I need the water bottle, and the water bottle goes dry. So we go to commercial break. It's not totally dry though. Let me take the last swig, and as I'm throwing it back, that decides to go down my lung, not my esophagus. So it's like, and I start coughing it up everywhere, and that's not yak. That's actually just water me spitting up, and thankfully, Tim, as typical here in Radio City on a Friday, it's not a city.
No, it's not.
Here is the list of attendees, right? In the High Fall Studios right now. It's me, it's Tim, and it's Dan. Is there anybody from sales? No.
Just you.
Just me. Not doing the sales thing right now. Is there any? No, nothing going on here. So that would have been embarrassing had I done it, in front of, a coworker, client. No, it was just you hearing me, cough up a lung.
I'm glad you're all right.
Down the hall.
Went on the Sunday tube on a Friday.
That's it. Good point to make. 585-866-4326 says we will. I'll get to that Bills scheduling note here in just a second. Jim Riley, Ballcap Sports, was great. Certainly hearing his take on things. And I've seen conflicting reports here in regards to, all right, what do teams like the Yankees and Dodgers, what are they going to do in terms of their local TV revenue? And the answer is they're going to share it, which that's mind-blowing if that is the case. But then I've seen a report that that's not the case. So it still is a little fuzzy here, both sides, but at least they're starting to talk. Before we get to Terrible Time Timmy's terrible take, I never like reading stories like this, but I'm like, we're still doing this? I thought they went out of business a long time ago. Sports Illustrated just announced layoffs. 12% of their workforce. That's not Sports Illustrated. Like, it's still under the header. Friends with Damon Amendola, right? He came on the show earlier this week. Yeah, when you were a kid and you would get SI in the mail, it was fantastic. And it had pictures and great writing and everything else. And I don't even know if they make a print version anymore. And sure, there's an online version, but just because it says SI.com and some of it is just aggregator crap, and really swore there. I mean, honestly, all right, the guy who does the bills, yeah, that's all secondhand stuff. I don't want anybody to lose their job, but they should take the Sports Illustrated name off of it. That should have been retired, but I guess some people aren't really that in tune. So, again, I don't want anybody to lose their job. That's not what we're rooting for. But on the other hand, that's not Sports Illustrated. I'm like, oh, we're still doing this. It is time for 3T's 3T.
It's now time for Terrible Time Timmy's Terrible Take of the Day on WGR Rochester. WGR Rochester. It's Terrible Time Timmy.
2 days of not having to hear that song coming up, and I can't wait.
Oh, and you're not here next Wednesday either.
That's right. I get one day of missing it.
We need a Dandelion song.
Yes.
We need a Dandelion song, and we need some sort of video.
And we need it by Wednesday.
Right. So everybody get working over the weekend. Tim, what do you got for us?
You kind of touched on it to open the show.
I always touch on things.
And you definitely touched on it with Jim Riley last segment. My take is a little bit different than what you guys were discussing, but this first offer, disingenuous, a bit of a scam, and a way to show the owners that they pretend to care, and they can force this on the players and make the players look bad, negating all the positives that the sport has brought the last couple of years. We are staring down the barrel, and I know it's still early, and it could change, but a work stoppage, a real one, not something in December, but losing games into 2027. And this offer, sure, there's some positives to it, but it's a farce. I don't buy into any of it, and I think that it's now on the players to push back on. It's going to make them look bad to the general public, and that's false. And you mentioned it's billionaires arguing with millionaires, and you're right, but I just don't buy into any of what the owners threw out there yesterday.
No, you don't have to. The idea that, hey, Pirate fan, and they're not the worst offenders. The Guardians are actually not spending where they should. It's a clever way to put this on the players for owners just lining their pockets. And Tim, this is what you and me, a lot of fans, we can't wrap our heads around, because, hey, what would you do if all of a sudden you became an owner? Oh my gosh, with all the wrongs that my team would do, and I would do this, and you wouldn't do anything like that if you were of mind of these other aliens, these other owners. Their purpose is to make money.
Sure.
It is not to win championships. That's hard to believe. And every once in a while, you'll get a Terry Pegula showing up. Hey, the purpose of the Buffalo Sabres is to win multiple Stanley Cups. Oh, you don't think he would want that one back? We thought, oh my gosh, it's actually a fan buying the team, and he's a billionaire. This is awesome. And then they get into it, and what made them a billionaire in the first place overrides their fandom. See the Sabres when all of a sudden you put Kevin Adams, when they had to get lean and efficient, or whatever the crap words they put out there. See Peter Angelos. Peter Angelos with the Baltimore Orioles. Once upon a time, I'm a fan. And then you spend a lot of money, and then you get tired of it, and now you're really, really cheap. Who is the owner who was actually a fan throughout. It changes instantly when you see the business side.
The Mets are kind of doing it right now, and it's not having success. I don't know if he might just keep spending. He's got a lot of money. All these guys have a lot of money. But eventually there's
He doesn't care either, Tim. You would have done something. No, he was a fan, and same thing. That's washed away. And you know what's working for Steve Cohen? I'll tell you what's working. That junkyard beyond Citi Field, gone. There's a casino going up. Steve Cohen makes money, and he's making more money. And he doesn't give a damn about a championship. Honestly.
I don't know.
He poured a lot of money into this, and you're just kind of sitting by. And do not confuse being accessible on X every once in a while with, hey, I'm a fan. He's not one of us. He's not. You can say all you want to that you're one of us. Again, give me the example of, hey, I'm a fan, I bought the team, and I'm still remaining a fan. You can't do it. You can't do it.
Outside of maybe Cohen, but no. Even the Yankees now, they don't spend. Like Steinbrenner, as George Steinbrenner, probably a fan, but he was a money-making fan.
He wasn't a fan. He tried to buy the then, as they were called, Cleveland Indians.
Yes, he did.
And he failed on that. He's from Cleveland, and he just backed into a deal. And he just, before social media, there were other people that were narcissists, and George Steinbrenner, capital N, a narcissist. Like, that's who he was. He understood. Like, he got his jollies off of being on the back pages of the New York papers for picking fights with Dave Winfield and Billy Martin and everybody else. It's got me fired up, Tim.
Baseball.
Or sports in general. Like, who?
I'm just looking at this.
All right, okay, I'm going to give you an example.
Okay.
Tell me. Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban, kind of a self-made money guy.
I think he's a fan of the sport.
Bought the Mavs as a fan. See, if there's a guy that kind of stayed true to that. I admire how he always picked fights with Stern. That was always kind of cool.
I can't name the owner, but I do have the internet. You mentioned it earlier, actually all week, about why you don't root for them. But Clay Bennett, owner of the Thunder.
Oh.
He did it. I mean, it's a little different, but.
So, just to fill everybody in, and I forgot the guy's name. Guy who owns the Oklahoma City Thunder buys the Seattle Supersonics under false pretense and does absolutely nothing to get an arena deal done. And because David Stern looks the other way, team ends up in Oklahoma City, which the NBA is like we point in the NHL. It's like, wait a second, the NBA has a lot of markets where they have one team and that's the only pro sports team. Portland, Memphis, Oklahoma City, used to be Salt Lake City.
San Antonio.
Now, San Antonio should have more than that, but that's kind of the niche there of the NBA. I'm sure I'm missing somebody else. Anybody else in that? Well, the point is that you should be able to heist a team and move it to your hometown. I mean, my gosh, can you imagine if Tom Golisano did that once upon a time? Actually, I think I commend Tom Golisano for what he's done for our community and giving back.
He kept the Sabres in town.
He did. Yeah, that's good enough. And he wasn't a fan, but you know the story. His best friend, Gene Policini, loved hockey, and he got kind of Tom into it. And Gene, unfortunately, leaves us too soon, and Tom does this and realizes, as a businessman, hey, I'm buying something at a depressed value. Now I'm going to sell it to Terry Pegula. Yeah, like, if you want to do, like, all the what-ifs, what if, like, John Regas doesn't go to jail? Like, what if Adelphia, because at the time Adelphia was planning, like, the biggest skyscraper in Buffalo, the one Buffalo building, like, everything. They were going to have their cable empire based out of Western New York. And then, I don't have to say allegedly, like, people went to jail. They stole from the company. It was just, accounting unchecked at the time. Like, Enron being at the top in Adelphia. This is the joy of the sports part, Tim. Now, see, that's the sign of maybe a good opinion because you got me all fired up.
I think it worked. I don't know if we went down a little bit of a different rabbit hole, but
No, but I like we all want the owner to at least have a pulse and care, not just buy it, set it and forget it.
Make the money.
Yeah, show up every once in a while.
It's our fault.
Like to be profitable. I don't care about the team being profitable. Like to me, sports teams are public trust. That like if you're getting this, it's not like other businesses where you're just there to maximize profit. You are doing this with a big kind of and sure, I guess it would be a lot of fun if you win the championship, but there's a lot of times, and that's why the value of these franchises is going up and up. We're gonna have a sale for the Seattle Seahawks here pretty soon. There's all the reports of that. No idea who's going to end up with that. Will it actually be a fan of the Seahawks? Probably not, because guess what? The NFL, the sale price of that will be $10 billion. There might be private equity involved, and you know what? It'll be a good investment. Who's saying NFL franchises are going down anytime soon?
You get to buy a Super Bowl champion.
That's why in the back of my mind, like, what is the estate planning for the Pagulas? Questions you can't ask that you would love answered. Like what how do you get around the death tax, so to speak?
Jesse retires from tennis and takes the Sabres to glory.
That won't happen because it's not on the outs totally, but how does that happen? Or does Terry say we built our stadium, I've had enough, we're gonna sell? I don't think that's the case. I think at minimum, we'd like to see it through. Like, can one team get to the top? What will that look like when, say, Roger Goodell hands the trophy over to Terry Pegula, and there's Kim standing right beside him?
Scenes only found in Madden.
Yeah, like that's what's the show? Billionaires, or what's it called? Billions?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, well, you're going to be knighted with an NFL franchise is the joke there. I got to get to this bill schedule thing. We have time for that. We got time for your calls. Thank you, Tim. 585-866-4326. My name is Gene Battaglia with Tim Schneider and Dan DeLorean here on WGR Rochester.
WGR Rochester Sports Update.
We could have an NHL final set tonight. Carolina is at home. They're up 3-1 on Montreal. Canadiens head coach Martin St. Louis telling his team it's one step at a time.
You can't look at, you got to win 3 and it's a big mountain to climb. Just got to win 1, you know. I don't think we've stopped and worried about everything that was talked about us, even today. And that, to me, that's just a noise. We don't worry about the noise. We just, we wake up every day trying to win the day.
It goes to a Game 7 in the NBA's Western Conference Final. That'll be tomorrow night. San Antonio at Oklahoma City. The winner to face the Knicks coming up. Game 1 of the NBA Finals coming up on Wednesday. The Rochester Red Wings had their winning streak snap. Wings hosting Syracuse tonight. All the action in the majors under the lights, including the Yankees playing out in Sacramento. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader. 95.7 FM, AM 950, WGR, Rochester.
Raising the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
Yeah, a quick note on the Red Wings, because sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way. So there they were. They were tied at 2 last night against Syracuse. There was a runner on first base, 1 out, and here comes the double play ball, right? Except, like, what the heck was that? Like, you're watching this boom, 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 boing. It's like an AstroTurf bounce. Like, okay, you call that a base hit. Bases then get loaded, triple, and then all of a sudden you're down 5-2, sacrifice fly, and that's how the Red Wings lost on like, literally a terrible bounce. So right now, as a result, the Wings are actually a half game behind Memphis. So there you go. Because when you're looking at the overall standings, the Wings at 32-21, Memphis at 33-21. So there's a half game the Wings would have to account for. I don't know if they actually are going to make that up. I think that's from the Pawtucket game, and I think that's going to be happening here coming up in a couple weeks. We'll talk some baseball throughout the season. Gene Battaglia with you. Time for calls this segment, the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line at 585-866-4326. Getting caught up on some things on X here as Jack writing in. As he was listening back to the show, which that happens for a lot of people that, hey, I'm working, but I want to listen to the show. Download the Odyssey app, and you can find it there. Gene, when you were talking about the Knicks in 1994, you didn't focus on what was important. Remember the juice.
Oh, yes. That was the Rangers. Let's go.
You got it, Juice. When Chris and I broke up, the Juice was there for me every night. It's like he's not really the Juice anymore. We gotta get you dressed, Juice. Juice, a will? Juice. Come on, Juice. Juice, it's AC. Juice! AC's here! Juice, I heard Juice. It's on every channel. You know I feel the same, Juice. You're gonna tell them yourself, Juice. Juice, your whole family's here, Juice. She's on the house phone waiting to talk to you, Juice. Juice. Okay, Juice? Okay, Juice, we're good to go. You're home, Juice. You know Uncle Juice, and your Uncle Juice is a good man. He's never gonna stop being the Juice. It could explain a lot, Juice. Just hear him out, Juice. He's right, Juice. Listen, Juice. Juice, this is your life. Juice, please, Juice. Juice, we need an answer.
That's David Schwimmer. When I hear that, I'm thinking that's just Ross saying that, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you want to talk typecast, playing the role of Robert Kardashian. Robert Kardashian no longer with us. Juice no longer with us. The racist cop, Mark Furman, no longer with us. He died last week. What made that and why it kind of crashed into the NBA Finals? This was the timeline back then. The murders happen on a Sunday night. The story comes out on Monday. And you're like, no, that can't be. And OJ flees to Chicago. So, no, he had his alibi in place. It wasn't me. I was in Chicago. Okay. And then they bring him back, and it's a story that kind of doesn't add up. And as the weeks go along and the investigation, as the week goes along and the investigation kind of goes along, they have an agreement for OJ to turn himself in on Friday. And there's the press conference. And then the sheriff or whoever it was gets up there and explains he's a fugitive, and you could hear gasp in the crowd. Oh my! And then all of a sudden it becomes, where's OJ? And this is before social media, and this is like, wow, this is really happening. Like, here's a man that is wanted in connection with the death of his ex-wife and a friend, a man there, and what happened to this story. And we weren't hungry for that. We were voracious. We're like, what happened? And then you hear, okay, it's OJ. And then just as prime time is happening, as if you're going to write this for TV, and then, of course, they have helicopters. There's the chase. And then if you're NBC, what do? You're in the middle of the NBA Finals. This is the NBA. This is the Knicks. This is the Rockets. I want to say it was like Game 5 at the time. It was in the Garden. That I do remember. And Bob Costas is the host, and nobody knows what to do. They're literally cutting away from the NBA Finals. Hey, you're a Knicks fan. Sorry, we got to show you this. And nobody complained. So that was the trip down memory lane, June 19th, 1994. That was the date, Tim.
Yeah, I remember that because that Stanley Cup final is what got me into hockey. Actually, the Eastern Conference final between the Rangers and the Devils, but it was that year.
That was the same year. Yeah,
that got me into it.
Everything was going nuts that year in '94. Think that was something back then. So thank you, Jack, for pointing that out. That part of Knicks history is they haven't won since 1973, and that includes kind of the juice taking that away from them. 585-866-4326. We've been waiting a long time for the Buffalo Bills, right? You want to count it the AFL championship, sure, but this pointed out by Chris Brown. So the NFL last owners meetings, not a surprise, right? We're up to 9 international games this year.
Oh man, what's that? I didn't hear you. I didn't hear it. Can you say it?
We're up to 9 international games.
9 times.
There's going to be more. And the idea that, hey, for the imbalance, if you're a team in a conference, it's going to get to a point where every team will have to give up a home game. You figure that's what's going to happen, but we're not quite there yet. But to keep everything in line, one of these things that was passed, and I'm not paying close attention to this, is that now it's once every 4 years, you are going to have to give up a home game. And I can't say overseas because that's not accurate. You have games in Mexico City and other places. But by and large, it's going to be, hey, you're going to go over to London. You're going to go over to Germany. Rams are going to Australia. Who knows where the next stop here is on the NFL World Tour. Well, if you have to give up a game once every 4 years and these rules go into effect next year, guess what? The last time the Buffalo Bills gave up a home game calendar year was 2023. So, hey, Bills fans, where do you want to go next year? You want to go to London? You want to go to Germany? Hey, we got that game in Ireland now, too. There's the whole world in front of you. Maybe it's Australia.
Prague.
Fine.
You can go anywhere.
You can go anywhere.
San Marino.
I'm going to tell you where they're going to go. And I don't know this for a fact, but I'm allowed to collect dots. And Tim, roll the tape.
Got it.
It's a summer day. Summer day last year. And why are the Buffalo Bills with Pete Goelli and all the brass in Toronto announcing some partnership with Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment to expand? I'm like, didn't we do this already? We don't need this. We got our stadium. Whoa. And the Sky Dome, it's retrofitted now for baseball, which is great if you're a Jays fan. And sorry, not going to be any CFL games in there. They have their own CFL stadium. It's where Exhibition Stadium used to be. It's right by, the train stop there. And you're thinking, no, BMO Field, that capacity cannot happen. Then you just do a little digging like, okay. BMO Field in Toronto, and maybe somebody's going to go up. There's going to be some World Cup games up there. Good for them. Makes sense, right? Toronto, 4th biggest market in North America, biggest market in Canada. They should have a World Cup game in Toronto. But where do you put it? Like that stadium for, what do they call it, Toronto FC or whatever, only 25,000. And they're expanding that stadium to 45,000 for the World Cup. Okay. And maybe a lot of this is portable bleachers. Well, if you can do that for the World Cup, and maybe some of those seats will stay, you sure as heck could do that for the NFL. Now, in terms of smallest outside of our borders stadiums that the NFL has played in, I just did the quick Googles, Tim, and okay, one of those stadiums in Germany sat 50,000. That doesn't seem that far off. So if the Bills have to go anywhere outside of our borders, and you would have other teams screaming murder on this, wouldn't it make sense if it's Toronto?
It would, because it's still
you could have fans up there. Look, tourism, it's not great between the two countries now for various reasons. We don't need to get into that. But, hey, you don't think that our friends north of the border wouldn't welcome an influx of Bills fans? Now, I went to every single one of those Bills in Toronto regular season games.
I was going to ask about that because it was a different era. The Bills weren't good.
No, they weren't good.
So it changed now.
They weren't good, and here was the thing. Ready? About the Bills? No one cared. No one cared in Toronto about the Buffalo Bills. Just how people in Buffalo were like, oh, look at this. We have a baseball team, the Blue Jays. And sure, that's the parent club, but they weren't really into it heart and soul. The irony here is I would describe it to people as, hey, I've never been to London. I've never been to one of those NFL games in London, but people in Toronto wanted to come out and support the NFL. And they did, but it was more like, yeah, it didn't feel like an NFL crowd. It just felt like, yeah, you could see it's filled up, and it's not very loud. In fact, it would be louder for the Seahawks or the Bears or any other team that whomped on the Bills back then. That was if we had the Jets on a Thursday night. I remember going up there and getting home at 6 in the morning. It was a different time, Tim, as you mentioned, where the Bills, they sucked. So now that they're good, now if you move the game up there, part of me is always like paranoid Gene, like, oh my gosh, would they ever want to take training camp away from Rochester? Would there be more of I think there's more logistical stuff now that with travel overseas.
Getting guys across the border just for practice is not worth it.
No, it's not. It's not worth it, and work visas and everything else. No, I'm not worried about that. But would you rather have the Bills go over to London or just go up the QEW? It's just to me. And yes, a lot of us who from that era, that was always the snake in the grass. That was the team that was ready to steal the Buffalo Bills. I'm not concerned about that anymore. I'm just not. The stadium is here. Toronto is a great market, and the NFL doesn't seem to care about expansion. Funny how all the other sports, NBA, still looking at our watch, hockey, and we talked last hour to Jim Riley. I am of the belief that for all this talk about Major League Baseball expansion, that's going to be the thing that the owners will hold back. Okay, if you agree to this, we will give you more jobs. And I'm not sure that's going to move the needle. I kind of agree with Jim on that regard. I'm not sure that's going to be the thing that will sway the players' union to say, okay, we'll take a salary cap. No, they didn't do it in the 90s. They didn't do it any time after that. They ain't going to do it now. So I just think baseball Armageddon is I fear for that. But as I do, Tim, I go way off track. Let me bring it back to the Buffalo Bills. Bills in Toronto next year, because when you looked at them going over to London, remember all that talk from 2023? Oh, wow, we have our sports scientists. Yes, banking sleep, that's the way to do it, and nutrition and everything else. And the Bills got over there, and they looked like they hadn't slept in a week. And Jacksonville kicked their butt. And what I remember about that game was Daquan Jones got hurt, Matt Milano got hurt, and I can't say that game kind of ruined the season for the Buffalo Bills. That was only in early October, but didn't help. So, and did the travel help at all? Can't say that it did. Certainly didn't help. So, I look, if the Bills are going outside the borders next year, we should also point out next year, Syracuse is going to open up in that same stadium. against Wake Forest. So if they're already setting that stadium up for football, American football, not CFL football, and that'll take place, I don't know if it's week 1 or week 0.
It's week 0.
It's a week 0 game. I love week 0. Week 0 is like, that's the magic potion for NFL preseason. Like, oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. SMU against Texas Tech, absolutely, or whatever. Like, oh my gosh, there's a game in Ireland. Yes, I'm going to sit down and watch this. Yeah, Syracuse playing in week 0 next year. Sign me up for that. 585-866-4326. We are talking sports here. Jack, thank you for writing in. Thank you for writing in. Brian also writing in, talking about 94, showing up a picture of him hoisting the Stanley Cup, which I don't know. And he's working at a bar. I'm assuming this is in the city, Brian. And that's not an AI thing. I believe that is you hoisting the cup. You can't do that. You cannot hoist the Stanley Cup. When the Calder Cup came in here, Tim, we hovered around it. We looked at it. Did we touch the Calder Cup?
I think you grazed it.
I did not graze it.
I don't know. I think there might be photographic evidence.
Bull. I did not graze it.
I'll pull up the tape. We've got a photo of it. I think you're touching it in the photo.
I did not touch the Calder Cup.
Not with your hands, but you were touching it. You were making contact with it.
Looking at it is not making contact.
We did not lift it for sure. See,
in 1.0, I'd be like box wine bet. If I'm
gonna pull it up.
Certain,
it's on the internet.
I did not. Like we had Warren from the Amherst in here. He would have been like, shame on you. Can't touch that.
I'm gonna pull it up.
That's like freeze frame. I got close to it. I'm looking at it.
You're touching it. It's right here. I'm looking at it right here. I'm looking at it right here. You're touching it.
I'm not.
It's on the internet. February 19th. You're touching it. It's right there.
I am not. I'm touching the frame.
I don't know.
No. I'm not touching the cup itself.
It's the trophy.
No.
You mean the actual thing that you drink out of?
Yeah. You're talking about
I think you're changing.
The stand it's on is not the cup. I'm not touching the cup.
You're touching the names on the cup.
My hand is right on the frame, but I'm not. There's 2 handles to the Calder Cup. I'm not.
If you did that, it would tear off the bottom of the base, and it would be all game over. We'd never be able to have that in this office again.
What was the few things that were funny about that? One was, okay, this was the promotion, the 90s promotion, and which was cool, right? Like, let's celebrate. And the AHL said, sure, you can have it, but just like the NHL, you can't touch it without having the white gloves on. So there's Warren Kozel, as you're looking at this photo, it is up on all our social media back in February, putting it on the table that's right next to our microphones with the white gloves. Just like that dude with the Stanley Cup. That's his whole purpose.
The keeper of the cup.
The keeper of the cup. The guy with the bushy hair that shouldn't have a haircut like that at his age. That's his thing. I'm not touching the cup. That is not me touching the cup. Touching the stand is not touching the cup.
I don't think that's the stand. That's the base of the cup.
That is, dude. All right, we're going to have somebody from the hockey world actually say.
It's the trophy itself.
Did I commit the ultimate sin? Like, there's things in hockey you can't do. If you go into a dressing room, you don't step on the logo. That's one. And if you don't win a championship, you don't touch any cup. And here's our buddy Brian from Hilton. Woo! He's lifting the Stanley Cup. Can we agree that's out of bounds? Like, if
in that moment, you're just feeling it. I think if they bring it in, like, you're sharing that moment with whoever brought that in. Like, you're not stealing the cup and running around with it like you won it. But if whatever player came into wherever that was, you're sharing that moment with everybody. I think that you're not just like, hey, look at what as the player, you're not bringing it in. Be like, don't touch it. I won this. I get to touch it. Like, you're sharing that with the people that you're with.
Or is this just a hockey thing? Like as a hockey player?
Hockey has a very weird culture where, like, they have this moral standing that just doesn't make sense. I'm on Brian's side. Raise that cup, and whoever the player was probably asked him to do it.
Final thought coming your way next. We'll set you up for Monday. As we head to the weekend, Gene Battaglia, Tim Schneider, Dan Drummond here on WGR Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR, Rochester.
Piece of advice for anybody in the NFL is this. Like, if you're going to get into trouble, don't do it this time of year because there's not a lot to talk about, and people will talk about you. You can't sweep this under the rug. And I'm not talking about a player. I'm actually talking about a coach. Pittsburgh Steelers today firing a member of their coaching staff. His name's Darius Swinton. All they'll say is violation of club policy, as he was the assistant special teams coach, which, is that going to affect the Steelers this year? No. But I'd also say this, like, if you have some sort of story and you need to tell people, the Friday news dump is always a great thing. That's where I like looking at my phone like 4 o'clock on a Friday. Like, okay, who's making news? And this one came a little soon, right? At 2:22, this comes across. Steelers fired us. Why are they firing a coach? What did he do? Oh, I guess we'll find out about that soon enough.
We haven't had a Vrabel news dump in a while. I'm really holding out hope that this weekend we get something. Rossini's got to come out of the woodwork and start talking.
The one that's keeping this alive is Mike Florio. And Mike Florio is banging on the drum that once Rossini does the sit-down and decides to tell her story, that's going to blow up Vrabel and blow up a lot of things. And here's why I don't think that would happen. She's got 2 little kids. Like, what purpose would it serve you? Now, this is me from the outside. Unless you're such a narcissist and then you missed being in the action, and that if you told your story and you got paid for it, and this would springboard you to the next thing. Again, we don't think like these people, Tim. Like, if you were in this situation, I would just keep my mouth shut and go off and live a private life. So, do I agree with Florio? This is the last of the story? Kind of, sort of, yeah. At some point, Rossini's going to pop up. And if it's right before training camp, if it's right around the 4th of July, if it's right around the time where we're hungry for football, and, let me tell you about all these years I secretly dated an NFL head coach. Grab that popcorn.
I would love
click, click, click,
that
click,
story.
click, click, click. The clicks would be off the charts. Monday, good friend of the show, longtime friend, Zig Fracassi will be joining us. Western New York Roots. We'll talk about the Cup Final and everything else with Zig. If you missed any of today's show, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern, we're on weekdays. Dan DeLorean has it up for you wherever you get your fine audio. It's on the Odyssey app as well. My name is Gene Battaglia with Tim Schneider. This is WGR Rochester. Show from Bulldog next.